Good afternoon all. It's the usual time of day. I seem to be feeling into a bit of a pattern here and just do these videos just before 1 o'clock our time, Eastern Standard Time in Australia. And it's been an interesting day. It's been very windy all day, and it was rainy in the morning when I had to go out, and now it's actually quite sunny but very, very windy. But it'll probably still get to about the mid-20s as far as temperature is concerned. So it'll be a nice enough day. I've got to go out and do some shopping, so that'll be good. I'm a bit brighter today. There wasn't any noisy neighbour downstairs. It sounded like there was no neighbour downstairs. I'm not quite sure what's happening with that neighbour, whether they're in the process of moving out or I have no idea. Like I say, it sounded like a woman and a child yesterday. But in the past it's been a couple, so I've got no idea, and I've heard nothing from Body Corporate, so I'm just... Anyway, enough of all that. On to the latest news, and of course the headline comes from where else but Victoria, and of course it's Dandenong, which seems to be the flashpoint. Dandenong, that southeast suburb in Melbourne. Melbourne's about 4.5 million people, quite a large city. And it's a working class type of area, and there's been a few people there who've said we've had enough of this stage 4 lockdowns, and they've got an hour of the day where they can exercise, but they've decided to do it en masse to make a point. I regard this as quite reasonable civil disobedience, and it's good to see a bit of the old Aussie spirit. Australians have in the past been known to have a larrikin spirit, but that seems to have basically disappeared in most of the country. But at least in this little section of Melbourne, the few Victorians are actually starting to show a bit of the old Eureka spirit. Eureka happened in the gold fields where the people felt they were getting ripped off by the authorities, the diggers, the people digging for gold, and they banded together and actually formed an actual stockade against the police. So it's not unusual for Victorians to actually clash with the police. It did happen in the 19th century, and it's happening again now. And if the police continue on with this heavy-handedness, where they virtually do have unlimited powers now because of the new Health Act, they're able to ask you who you are and what you're doing, without any cause, and if you resist they can fine you. In this particular case in Dandenong yesterday, pepper spray was used on someone by an overzealous officer with a short, described as having a short fuse in the media, and and things are getting a little ugly. There were some elderly people yelling out at the cops. Tensions are definitely rising, and what could actually occur if they don't cool down the situation, there could actually be some reprisals against the police. Anything is possible given the mood at the moment. People are getting thoroughly fed up with being locked indoors in Melbourne, and I just think it's totally unjustified. I think it's a government who just loves the power trip they're on, and it's very sad to see this country comply so easily to what people in Eastern Europe were trying to flee and come to a place like Australia for freedom after the Second World War. We seem to now be running our country almost in the same way as the Eastern European nations under the Warsaw Pact were run. I mean, it's just ridiculous. There was some half-witted reporter who actually referred to the workers who were the demonstrators in Dandenong as a cult. I mean, it just shows you the level of journalism in this country. As I say, I've seen some good journalists work here, but unfortunately I think the majority are absolute mindless hacks, and the number of quality journalists you could count would be on your hands, I'd imagine, unfortunately. Daniel Andrews, the Premier, is like a rabid dog. Now he's got the scent of power with these emergency decrees. He's loving it. And it looks as though he's going to get 6 months, which is very sad. He initially wanted 12 months. Some people are saying that was basically an ambit claim, but who knows? I just think he's a very dangerous individual, and there is an election next year, but there's no guarantee that the Daniel Andrews will get the boot. A lot of Victorians seem to like being treated like prisoners. So what can you do? And a bit of light-hearted interlude here with CNN. They made a fools out of themselves yet again, but they're very good at that. They seem to be experts at making fools out of themselves. Very sad to see CNN, which used to be sort of like a flagship news organisation, is now just sort of scuttlebutt, and they don't seem to have a hide. They're just basically belying their own words with the images they're putting on camera. Actually, the situation with coronavirus in Queensland, here in Cairns, we've got one case, which was imported actually from Papua New Guinea, which has got a few coronavirus cases. So that's just one case, and they're in isolation in Cairns Hospital. So that's totally under control. But there's 3 new cases in the rest of the state. I think it's around in the Brisbane area. And as a consequence, Annastacia Palaszczuk, the Premier, with Jeanette Young, the Chief Medical Officer, basically telling her exactly what to do, has said to basically cancel the Schoolies celebration. Now, Schoolies celebration is for all the kids getting out of basically celebrating the end of the school year. They usually go down to the Gold Coast, which is a big resort area in the southeast part of Queensland. Queensland is a huge state, has an incredibly long eastern sea line, and I'm about 1,000 kilometres from Brisbane, to give you an idea how big this one state is. And they go there and they just basically go to celebrate and just do stupid, foolish things that kids just finishing school do. But of course now the medical authorities are coming down hard on these kids and saying, no, you can't do it. We're going to cancel the whole thing. And they're putting out circulars to schools and telling them that they basically can't do schoolies anymore. I just think this is ridiculous. These are people who are some of the lowest risk groups there is. The youth are very low risk when it comes to coronavirus, so let them have a bit of fun. But no, the wicked sisters of Annastacia Palaszczuk and Jeanette Young, they're like characters out of a bad pantomime, the evil characters, and they just say, no fun for you kids, sorry, cancelled. And they're just, again, they remind me of Daniel Andrews. They're just loving the power trip they're on. And it really disgusts me. Well, the Schoolies situation is nothing compared to the next story, which is very serious. And again, it's an infant's life that has been basically sacrificed because of the stupidity of these state governments. Annastacia Palaszczuk's come up with the ludicrous comments that he says that Queensland hospitals for Queenslanders. I think Annastacia has forgotten that actually we're living in a country called Australia, and that she is the Premier of a state within that country. Do you understand what I am saying, Annastacia? Because you don't seem to basically understand Australian civics. Maybe someone should actually put you in school for a while. I mean, seriously. What's actually happened, I'll just explain. An unborn baby has died after a heavily pregnant mother was forced to wait 16 hours for emergency surgery in Sydney after being turned away at the Queensland border. I mean, it's cruel, it's stupid, it's just asinine. And the only reason I can think that Palaszczuk is doing this sort of stuff is that there's an election coming up, and she thinks that maybe Queenslanders will say, hey, you're doing it for Queensland. I don't think so. I think a lot of Queenslanders will be disgusted by the fact that this woman seems to have absolutely no humanity in her. Although, of course, she basically used the excuse that it was Jeanette Young's job and that she's not going to take responsibility. So she hasn't even got the guts to actually take ownership of this, even though she's supposedly the leader of the state. But these days we do lack real leaders, people who are prepared to actually make hard decisions and take responsibility. It's a rare damn thing if you see it. And this is really, compared to the Schoolies thing, this is really, really disgusting. The Schoolies decision was I think callous and mean-spirited, but this one we're talking about human lives, and I just think it really stinks. And I'm not the only one. Peter Dutton, who I think is a very sensible federal minister, a Queenslander as well, he can see that he's from a different party, but still he's I think he's spot on chastising Palaszczuk for this. I think this woman is really losing the plot. I'm hoping this is going to lead to a thrashing of the Labor in Queensland. I think they really need their asses kicked. Yeah, it sort of belies the whole thing that began when all this coronavirus began. They came up with cliches like we're all in this together. Well, I say pig's ass we are. We're not all in it together. We're basically the people ruling are getting off on the fact that they are treating us like minions, and we're just basically pawns on their chessboard, and we just do what we are told, and if we don't, they'll use emergency powers to come down us like a ton of bricks. It stinks. It's everything goes against my libertarian feelings, and I think my ethos, my libertarian ethos, that we should have individuals should be empowered. This is not the way things are going. We're being treated like infants, and the real infants are the people in power. They've got they don't seem to be the brightest people on earth, and they certainly love the lust of power. They are getting right off on it, and it really pisses me off. By the way, I've got to say I'm very grateful to all the support I'm getting from Sweden. Over 11% of my viewership is now from Sweden, which was quite staggering to me. I actually do watch a Swedish YouTube channel every day. It's Stefan from Sanity for Sweden. He's one of the people I watch every single day when I get up. I watch him. I also watch two people from America, and that's Sticks and Hammer 666 and Tim Pool. Those are three that I always watch. I'm getting actually closer to the peak. This marathon climb up the mountain. I had 498, I think, is the highest subscription number I've had. So thank you very much for the people who did actually subscribe to my channel with the plea. I got quite a few people viewing the last video. I never have a clue what is going to be a popular video on this site. I think most creators are in the same boat. It's generally a big surprise. It's partially due to the YouTube algorithm, and I'm noticing I'm not getting these ups and downs in the Bitchute channels that I've set up. They seem to be fairly steady increase in numbers watching, but nothing like the peaks and troughs that I'm getting with YouTube. But I'm definitely want to build up the Bitchute channel, because just in case the censorship at YouTube becomes totally intolerable. It's already very irritating, but it could get worse. So look at again the usual plea. Please subscribe if you like the channel. Thumbs up or thumbs down would also be appreciated, or a comment. Please feel free to tell me what you think of what I'm saying. If you don't like it, that's fine. I made a discovery too that I don't know if you know this, but I'm pretty addicted to condensed milk. I got hooked on it when I was in Vietnam. It's the way the Vietnamese have their coffee. If you want to have it with milk, they'll use condensed milk, mainly because they don't produce dairy products in Southeast Asia. And that's how I have my coffee now. I have filtered coffee, reasonably strong, with condensed milk. But I wasn't sure where the milk came from. I assumed it was actually from Australia, because we've got a reasonable sized dairy industry here. But no, it comes from, you'll never get this, it's not in Asia, it comes from a Baltic state. And do you know which Baltic state it comes from? It's the most southern one, Lithuania, of all places. So there's a bit of trivia for you. If you want condensed milk, the cheapest condensed milk that is, then you're basically getting a product, if you buy it from Coles, from Lithuania. And if you buy the local condensed milk, you pay double. So it gives you an example of how the international supply chains can cut the cost of certain commodities. Anyway, that's probably all the economics you can probably handle. I know it's a subject that's not the highest on most people's lists. I hope you found this informative. The battle continues in Australia for liberty. I hope that we win out eventually, but at the moment it's quite a struggle. So, yeah, look after yourselves, stay positive, and I hope you have a great weekend.